everyone. We're back. It's 2025 San Diego Comic-Con. This is our Outside the Convention Center guide. This is where we talk about things that happen outside the convention center. We'll come to you talking about the floor, panel strategies, all of that in YouTube form, but also on our podcast channel. That said, this is the video where annually we come out to this bridge and we start talking about all the things that happen outside the convention center, from offsites, food, things like that. Now, that said, over the years since we started doing this video, we have added a lot of additional videos. Like we have our Quick Eats guide, we have our Fifth Street tour. So some of the things we used to talk about, we may not hit as much in this one, and we'll refer you to those. All of those things being taken into consideration, though, very excited for Comic-Con 2025. As we start this video, there's still a lot of things to be announced. There always are. I mean, there's announcements literally the first day of Comic-Con. So we highly suggest following along with our friends over at the unofficial San Diego Comic-Con blog. And of course, outside Comic-Con. When we're talking outside Comic-Con, it makes perfect sense. And then us on social media, we'll be sharing updates from the floor, from the panel rooms, all over the place before and during Comic-Con. So that said, let's get to talking about the outside aspects of San Diego Comic-Con 2025. So, one of the first topics, and I was telling Carmel before we started filming this, like, it's so kind of tired of doing this every year with our guides for both WonderCon and San Diego Comic-Con, where we talk about, like, is this the year everything's normal again? And it's just like, things have not been normal since the pandemic. I mean, of course, the mandatory masking, distancing are gone, closures, things have reopened, all of that, but things are still very strange. And a lot of that's more about kind of what Comic-Con relies a lot on, which is the entertainment world. And obviously, entertainment, Hollywood went big on streaming, and many are struggling to make the money they thought on streaming. And there was a lot of patterns created during the pandemic where Hollywood leaned into people maybe not obviously not going to the theater at the time and putting everything on streaming, and people have been reluctant to go back into the theaters. All of that comes into importance here just because it greatly impacts the money that companies have to come here. Now, fortunately, we have seen Disney go big on San Diego Comic-Con. I mean, if you go back and look at 2024, like outside our videos that we did, you're seeing all sorts of Disney money from Hulu and FX, and of course, Disney proper, Disney Plus. I mean, it's just all over the place, things related to them. And already seeing things like Predator Badlands coming to Comic-Con this year, seeing the banners up, the Fantastic Four banners. We expect, again, Disney to go big. But it really is tough to know what people are going to be able to afford. Now, adding to that, the economic uncertainty that came related to all the things going on with tariffs and imports and all that. As we talk about the inside the convention center, I mean, we'll see what happens in terms of the vendors there and how that impacts pricing. But it's just to say, once again, I'm sad to say in 2025, I don't think it's going to be a normal year of Comic-Con like we used to talk about in 19, 18, 17, and so on. We never really addressed it in those years because it was just like, yeah, it's another year of Comic-Con. Everything's normal. But these are kind of strange times. So we'll see. I am very hopeful as we look at this that we'll see FX here. I'm hopeful we'll see Hulu. I'm hopeful we'll see AMC. I'm hopeful we'll see all of those. But we don't know. But it's important to remember that if there are less activations outside, that just means every activation is going to be that much busier because the fans are still going to want to take part in these things. And even in the biggest years of Comic-Con with those outside activations, there have been massive lines sometimes. So it's all to weigh in. That's where social media comes in. It really is critical to have a good network that you're using on social media to get those updates. Now in 2025, once again, we find that X, Twitter, whatever you prefer to call it, is still the most reliable way to share information quickly. We know that's where the blog puts everything, and we see things there so quickly when they have breaking news. I know for us, we're using Blue Sky, we're using Threads, we're using Instagram stories to share information, but we're finding that things move the best and the engagement is the highest, and people seem to be promoting the stuff most there on X, Twitter. So that is a place that you may be wanting to watch as you're looking at what are the updates, checking that SDCC hashtag, sharing with us or the blog as we kind of retweet or repost, whatever we want to call it in this area. Also, in addition to social media, so much is about networking. I know that's something when we started our Comic-Con experiences back in, 2005, it was like, we just come here and do our own thing. But over the years, I've seen, like, it really helps to have friends at the con. It really helps to use Facebook groups. It helps to find these different groups of people that can help look out for you, whether it's hanging out in line and being able to have conversations there, or somebody running to go get a table at a restaurant ahead of time and stuff. It's just nice to have that, but it's also about the sharing of information. So highly suggest that you're looking in these weeks ahead to Comic-Con of where are you able to get information fast and how is it communicated? Because Comic-Con's very unique. It's not like any other event. It's not like when we go to Disneyland and how information is shared there. We can wait for Facebook posts or Instagram posts and things like that, YouTube videos. Here, things are gone in seconds. And so it really helps to be dialed into all of that. Now, talking about this specific location here, I mean, obviously we're across from the convention center. over here. It's important to note once again that there is going to be the closure over here. So badged attendees only making their way in. There will be the security check there over on the steps. Also, though, we're filming here as we're talking about harbor and there is that closure coming. Also, if you note over here, there's a lot of construction that has been ongoing, and we've shared pictures on social media, but the construction is ongoing. It is a big construction zone all around here. It's part of why we chose to shoot right here so that you could see. We usually like to shoot over by the Hall H line. It's like, oh, it looks all pretty for Comic Con, but it's just important to know that this is something going on, and it's not going to be all wrapped up in time for Comic Con. So do plan accordingly, especially if you're driving in. Even as we're doing this right now, it's just a random Monday at like 2 o'clock. The line is over the bridge of cars because they reduce us to a single lane there. So if you're going to be driving in, coming down Harbor, be aware of that limitation there. It might be easier to circle around and come on the other side of the convention center in. So that said, let's move to the next spot. All right, so up here on the bridge over by Petco, to talk a little bit about the interactive zone and just a little bit also about offsites and activations, just kind of generally speaking. So let's talk about the interactive zone. This is one of kind of the all-time classic areas for offsites taking place in the parking lot here across from Petco. Many people take the Bay Bridge over. One of the things about this in the last several years here is they have kind of locked it down where they do security checks coming in. So be aware, we've gotten reports of a lot of long waits. In fact, since they've gone to that model, I think we've only maybe come over here one time. It seems like there's been less and less it's pulled us over here and more reports of like those longer waits. So something to plan accordingly. Now, that said, with all of the activations, you do have to weigh in mind there's kind of this opportunity cost with time. They do get incredibly busy. People are willing to spend a lot of time, and many of them don't require badges. I mean, if you're somebody that's coming down to the Gaslamp area to do activations and you don't have a Comic Con badge, make sure to check in advance if they don't require a badge, but most of the time they're not going to require it. That also makes them particularly busy on Saturdays and Sundays. A lot of locals will come in, and that's kind of their Comic Con experience to come down for that one day. And so now you have not only the attendees, but that. Thursday, we normally find being one of the best days to visit activations. Friday's usually not too bad as well. But then the challenge with those is you don't always have reports of how good they are, if you're hunting swag, if they even have swag, because you're one of the first people checking it out too. So there's just a lot to consider there in terms of your strategy. With everything Comic-Con related, if there's only one thing people take away from us, I think, is we just talk so much about opportunity cost and about making those decisions, because time is the greatest currency at San Diego Comic-Con. Everybody works so hard to get there. There's a limited amount of time that we all have at the experience, and we have to decide how much of it we're willing to spend in line for anything. And that's obviously not just talking about something like the interactive zone or other offsites, but it's about everything at Comic-Con altogether. Also, make sure to monitor hours. One of the things I know we've hoped for many years is to see more activations going into the after hours. You know, exhibit hall closes, and then to have those activations extending 2, 3, 4 hours. And some do occasionally, but we know generally speaking that's not the case. Many are limited in their hours. There's some activations that don't even start on the first day, or Thursday fully, and definitely not on preview night. There's a lot that's shut down Sunday. So if there's one that you're particularly excited about, definitely check them out fully. And you may even want to stop by the actual spot once they start, serving people, and see like, okay, what are the specifics of when you guys are going to close down? If there's freebies that you're hunting, you can ask them, hey, does this seem likely? They may not know. It's one of our Comic-Con, rules is always to kind of ask the same question 3 times to make sure you try to get as good of an answer as you can, because there are so many temporary. Everything at Comic-Con is temporary. And so when you talk about these activations, a lot of times it's people working in areas that they don't normally. When something like the Thunderbolts ice cream truck comes out here this year, that's going to be over down by the Omni area here. But they're getting more experience than most activations in that they're going to be serving ice cream for, 3 or 4 days during the July 4th weekend. And then they're going to come here and just be here for a couple of days. But most of these activations, the employees are just there for those couple days, and everybody's kind of figuring things out as they go. So it can make things really rocky. And so make sure to plan your patience and make sure to be really aware of all that. It's also why we're really big on making sure to be very kind to the employees and thank them for all that they do, because in the end, a lot of them are being thrust into positions they're not used to working in. And it can be very stressful and chaotic. If you can imagine working in the middle of Comic-Con at a job that's not your normal job quite at all. So again, lots to be concerned with offsites and activations, lots to consider. And specifically when we talk about the interactive zone, make sure to pay attention if they are having that checking bags for their access, of how long people are reporting it's taking to actually get inside. And then additionally, Once you're getting inside, you're waiting in the lines inside as well. So that can, compound things. Last year with FX, there was a lot with like the Bear, they're waiting however much time to get in the activation. And then there's that separate wait time for that as well. So things to consider as you plan out your Comic Con 2025. Let's talk a little bit about some of the hotels real quick, because a few of the hotels are actually extensions of the convention itself, whereas other hotels have activations. We'll talk about, for example, the Hilton Gaslamp in a second and what they're doing with Shutter. But others like the Hilton Bayfront, I mean, they have the Indigo Ballroom. That is in and of itself a part of the convention. You can see panels there, line up, queue up, see some really great things there. Now, back behind us, the Marriott has played a variety of roles over the years for Comic-Con. So when you're looking at your program, you're going to want to look closely at what their offerings are there. And if you're staying in the hotels, of course, the Pinball Lounge has been there, esports, fulfillment room to pick up things. These things can fluctuate where they're at this year. The Hyatt Grand Manchester down there is going to have her universe, and they do the beautiful fashion show there. So again, these three hotels on this side here at the convention center, all extensions of Comic-Con, all have really interesting offerings that are badge specific, though. These are ones for attendees and for the day of your badge. Now, another thing to point out down this way here, where we've had Peanuts in the past, last year we had Planet of the Apes down here. I do find, and we get reports from a lot of people post Comic-Con, that a lot of these offsites have a lot softer wait times. I mean, like there'll be long lines and then they just like disappear. I know for ourselves, when we made our way over there, I want to say it was Saturday afternoon, there was no line for Peanuts. There was like almost no line for Planet of the Apes. There was some giveaways out on the streets. Like there was a lot of really accessible things, and people had kind of just forgotten about them because we really haven't used that extension. Like in the old days, you had down by the Children's Museum more going on there, but I think people kind of forget about that. So if you don't have a badge, you're looking for some activations, maybe with some lesser lines, that might be a good place to check out. Also wanted to point out First and Market. We're not going all the way down there, but not too far. Definitely walking distance. We walk by there all the time when we're out here doing Comic-Con stuff. They do have a Ralph's there. It's kind of the famous Ralph for Comic-Con attendees. A great spot to pick up water, food, drinks, whatever you might want to have, snacks if you're flying in. But also we live in a time where obviously a lot of people do things like Instacart, or they have Walmart deliver, or whatever it may be. I know recently when we went to Orlando to visit Epic Universe, we had a bunch of things delivered to our room to just have water, snacks, things like that. We arrived at the hotel. They were sitting there at check-in. So do check with your hotel what they allow. And then, of course, if you're using those bellmen, make sure to tip them helping you out, getting your groceries to your room and all of those things there. On the trolley stops, I wanted to note real quick, we put this as a tip on our social media. So if you follow us there, you've already seen this. But do note, if you are coming in on MTS, that the convention center stop is going to drop you off down there by the Marriott. Actually, if you step right out, you're going across the street to the Marriott. Hall A, if you're going for ADA, if you are going for volunteer check-in, that may be the perfect spot. But a lot of times people are actually wanting the Gaslamp stop, which is over here. And this is taking you more directly into where the everything else line would be, or if you're lining up for Hall H, or even if you're coming later in the day, you just want to hit directly on the floor. So do make sure when you are coming in on the MTS to know whether you want that actual convention center stop, which is probably more likely down there for most of you, or if you want more of a Marriott Hall A stop, which is going to be down on that end. Now, lastly, at this stop here, just our Hilton Gaslamp. Always love seeing what's going on here. There's been a really great amount of off-site activations inside the hotel itself. For wraps, this spot we're standing in right here is normally used throughout our Comic-Con history as well. This year, Shutter, celebrating their 10th anniversary, is going to bring Clown and Cornville, which should be really fun. And it also speaks to kind of the extent of Comic-Con activations. You have some things that are really targeted at the little ones, and then you have things like this that are going to be a little bit more adult, maybe a little bit more scary as you encounter some killer clowns in a cornflow. That being said, it also speaks to just such an eclectic offering, and it's those things like, when else can you say that you hung out in a cornfield, and particularly in San Diego in this better weather down here? It's a pretty nice little offering for Comic-Con this year. All right, so this year we did actually we're doing 2 full 5th Street and 6th and 4th kind of videos separate from this. You can just find those. One of them's already up as this recording and the other's coming. But on the 5th Street, we just still want to talk about here just a few big notes. One, definitely less of the outdoor seating. There's still outdoor seating, of course, here, like we look at Rock and Baja. But as in the years past with the pandemic, how they had extended the way Union Station has, they're about the only ones here on 5th that still maintain that sort of extra seating there. So do plan accordingly with that. It could mean a little bit longer waits at some of the spots here in the Gaslamp area. Also over here, of course, we have Happy Does. The Lodge is returning once again. So excited to see what they do with it this year. It's been fun seeing them each year. Kind of evolve, change, adapt, and it's become like FX. Nowhere near as long, but one of those things like you just kind of count on, like what's the Lodge going to do this year? And I don't know that that will continue with the changes in what's going on with ownership over with Paramount and all of that, but for this year at least, the Lodge does return. Once again, no vending officially being allowed on the streets. So do note that in terms of like the street vendors, they how closely they enforce it varies. Also, we have Buca di Beppo is back in the Gaslamp, new location, one that we've been following for a while, but it is right over here off of, if we're looking, we're here on 5th, and is this J, I believe? Yeah, J. And then lastly, we wanted to note on this, down at Island, right past the CVS there, we have more food options. Definitely the other side of Island. It seems like things are even a little bit easier in terms of lines. A lot of people don't want to walk that far down. Not that there won't still be busy spots, but Island, if you continue, and even beyond that, the further you go away from the convention center, which is down there, the easier you're going to find probably seating throughout the busy weekend. And then last note on Island down there, they have gotten rid of Bank of America has gotten rid of their ATMs. I know we've shared that on social media, but if you need an ATM, you'll need to plan to get your cash somewhere differently. We're over here by the Hilton Bay front, and this is an area for a lot of Comic-Con activity every year. Just want to point out a few things. We never know exactly what's going to happen with any of these areas, of course, until we get a little closer to Comic-Con. Again, as we are filming this, there are a lot of question marks, but the Bay itself is obviously beautiful. It's always a place to check out, no matter what, even though it's Comic-Con times. Also, Joe's Crab Shack, if you're any fan of that, we've heard they're actually going to be closing pretty soon. So it might be, you might want your final visit there. We think they're going to be open until Comic-Con, but that may have some sentimentality to it. I know we have, that's not a spot that we normally visit during Comic-Con, but I know for a lot of people it is as well. Radio Shell is off over here, concerts galore, not just during Comic-Con, but throughout the year. And as we were recording this, I mean, they were like practicing for tonight, and you can hear it all the way out over here. It's part of what adds that Comic-Con vibe. Maybe Voodoo Ranger out in the waters there. Of course, we have loved what Hulu has done with Anna Mayhem. That has been back here behind the convention center. We don't know if they're back for sure yet as of this recording. We do know Adult Swim said that they would be back, so that's exciting. They've done some great stuff, and they've been one of those long-time contenders here at Comic-Con for favorites in the Offsite world. Also in that category, this area here being used for a whole different conference today, but FX, we have loved what FX has done. Every year we appreciate FX being there because it's been just such a massive offsite with all these activations within it, and hoping that they are going to be returning this year as well. But again, all of them opportunity costs, all of them have time. We talked about, for example, over here, the amount of time it might take to get into the activation itself, and then last year, then that extra time to wait for the individual activations inside the bear. So some people, it's not always bad not to have a 4 day. Some people want the 4 day badge at preview night, but then they find that just 2 days is great because they come out here for 2 days and they spend the time doing those things. And as we've seen Comic-Con have more activations, there's more going on the backside. We didn't used to have Anna Mayhem back here at Hulu. We didn't have what they did with Ava Fest last year. It's kind of moved more towards this side, and we haven't been using as much some of that other side kind of far down there by the Children's Museum. As we're thinking about all this, as we're kind of getting close to the end of this video, though, we did want to stress, just remember, knowing your pace. It's a big deal, and we think about it a lot when it comes to the outside the convention center is, what's the pace you're comfortable with? What's the pace of your group? I think about out here where these Hall H lines sometimes can stretch, and we have people sleeping on the sidewalk, and some people can do that and their whole group can do it. And also, I'm sure if you're a longtime attendee, you've seen it. I know we've seen it. People arguing intensely, their families, their friends, about the pacing and needing more breaks. And so make sure you're comfortable and start having those conversations a few weeks out of knowing, like, how many times a day are we going to eat? What is our group? How are we going to keep connected? Are we okay splitting and doing things differently? I'm going to take a day and do offsites, and my wife's going to take a day and just do panels. Whatever it may be, that communication can go a long way. As many things you can kind of get on the same page about before you come to Comic-Con, the more it's going to help that Comic-Con experience. I know for us, we make a really big deal about trying to take a couple breaks each day, just kind of taking time to eat, talk. For us, it's also podcasting as well, but just needing some time to kind of recenter and get back to it, because we do not want to be burned out when Sunday comes. I know that's a really big deal to me. Somebody asked us just yesterday, when Comic-Con comes to Sunday, if we're like excited that it's over because like it's been so much build up and so much work. And Carmel and I are both like, no, we like really miss it. Like we miss it Sunday night, we miss it Monday, we miss it the week from Monday. We always miss Comic-Con, but I think part of that is really trying to have a good pace and making sure that we're not feeling too burned out through it. Now, as we said earlier in the video, we will be on the ground. Our friends at the blog will be on the ground sharing all sorts of stuff there. So follow along on social media. Also, our podcast feed, our YouTube channel. We try to take a couple months here and put as much out there as we can to help. Truly, Parks and Cons began just as me making a Twitter account to ask for help, to try to get help at Comic-Con back in like 2007. And ultimately, it became us trying to give help. But really, we're just trying to make sure people have the best experience possible. So also feel free to jump in the comments section of this video and share some of your tips to help people out. We always love seeing people share things. There's going to be things that you do at Comic-Con that make your experience better that we're not going to mention here and maybe we don't even know about, so we do appreciate that. So lots more to come from San Diego Comic-Con 2025. We'll see you in line somewhere.